Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jane Theory. Today we discuss Westworld Season 3, Episode 4, The Mother of Exiles. This episode did a little bit too much for me. In the last two episodes, which were really good by comparison, the stories were compact. The narratives were very character focused. We had familiar mysteries that we became accustomed to in Season 1 regarding reality and humanity and time. This episode diverged from that and went super linear like Episode 1 and then collapsed all the storylines into one, which probably did sound good in theory, but wasn't really executed very well, and left me feeling that the reveal was a little anticlimactic. But let's start with the man in black, William. This is the character I was really looking forward to, specifically looking forward to his possibly being a host, only to find out this episode that he probably isn't, and he only thinks he might be because of the trauma he experienced in the park. And if we accept that the voices he's hearing and what he's saying is really himself, then he's driving himself crazy, questioning his reality, asking whether he can tell the difference, wondering which would be better, being a human or being a host. He even ponders slitting his wrist the way his wife did to find out. The problem is that by making William's mental illness into a red herring, it kind of unravels the entire human to host concept, as he was the one human many fans thought capable of crossing over. Now, I'm not saying they won't attempt this later on in the story. I mean, it could be that Caleb is the one, who knows. But to learn that he was simply on sabbatical this whole time means that this guy, who's proven himself to be a rather astute businessman and who spent more time in the park among hosts probably than anyone else, was duped by a fake Charlotte who by sheer idiocy cost him the controlling interest in his own company. And by extension, his mental illness is manipulated by Dolores in order to steal that remaining interest right from under his nose and leave him trapped in a mental institution. Now that just doesn't seem like the William we know. Maybe this is some kind of karma after he did essentially do the same thing to James Delos and his son, but it turns this layered, complex deconstruction of what it means to be human into a flat, rather boring corporate espionage / revenge drama. And it's not helped by Dolores' cryptic yet contradictory statements to him. On one hand, she says, "I promised I'd let you destroy yourself someday. Here we are at last." But when he asks, "Am I me?" she says, "Welcome to the end of the beginning." I mean, which is it? And then Bernard. He and Stubbs attempt to kidnap Dolores' boyfriend to protect him, but the effort was apparently either staged or so carefully monitored by Dolores that she anticipated their moves and intercepted them before they were able to get away. Now, I do hope this doesn't mean that they're acting in accordance with the script she wrote for them, because if it turns out that they're being manipulated, then that would undermine Bernard's entire awakening story. The only other thing that was interesting about their scenes was that Dolores got into a fight, which I'm going to come back to that later, which was captured by someone who I'm guessing was a reporter or possibly a spy, and she appeared to have in her hand a device one might use to discreetly record video in their world. And of course, if that's true, then either she's working for Sirach, or Sirach should have gotten a visual of Dolores via Rehoboam, since he's tapped into this and it's tapped into all technology. Anyway, by the end, the fake Scotsman guy recognizes Bernard, and Bernard recognizes that he's a host and asks him who he really is. We'll come back to that later. Then there's Caleb. Caleb is continuing to work for Dolores, even allowing her to inject another man's blood into his veins to bypass security. He has not only seen her murder several people last episode, which, okay, you might explain away as her acting in self-defense. In this episode, she threatens to kill people who are just doing their jobs if her effort to bypass security fails. And there are other hints he should be picking up on that Dolores is a problem. Namely, when they're getting ready to attend this posh party, she preps him to, quote unquote, pretend to be one of them in order to destroy them, in reference to the people she says took his future. Dolores is basically projecting at this point, and he's ignoring all the signs. By the way, another very clear sign to me that something is wrong. How does he still believe she's human after seeing her drag full-grown men by one arm like ragdolls? It's like he's not asking himself any questions, and maybe it's because he's blinded by her. I don't know, but I would love to see how they make that make sense later. And then there's Maeve. So we learn that Serac has brought Maeve to Singapore, which she asked him to confirm is the real world and not a simulation. Now I'm thinking that was really more for the audience's benefit than hers, but who knows if he's telling the truth or not. We also learned that his home, Paris, was destroyed when he was a boy, apparently by some sort of nuclear blast. This allegedly is what inspired him to create Rehoboam, in an effort to stop humanity from becoming its biggest threat. He explains that by logging human behavior, he's allowed to understand humanity, to prevent future calamity. But as it turns out, he learned that a more complete portrait of humanity, a true map of the human mind, was to be found in the park, presumably because that's where people showed their true selves. And Dolores, he believes anyway, has the key. So he told Maeve last episode she didn't have much time to get to Dolores. This time he takes a carrot and stick approach. If she's successful, he'll allow her to spend the rest of her life with her daughter. If she fails, she'll experience a lifetime of hell. The guy comes across as dark and sadistic and anything but altruistic. I don't believe his motives as expressed to Maeve, and I don't believe he's to be trusted, and I suspect that she knows as much herself. Nevertheless, she does embark on the trail, goes from broker to mortician to the Asian guy from the park whose name I can't remember, but she identifies him as a host because she recognizes him, and she assumes that this is someone who Dolores has recruited. And then we have the big reveal. So all season, we've wondered, who are in these pearls. And finally, in each of these storylines simultaneously, it's revealed that the pearls Dolores snuck out of the park, and therefore each host she's created, is in fact her. Charlotte in her conversation with William, the Scotsman in his conversation with Bernard, and the Asian guy in his conversation with Maeve are all Dolores herself. Now, Charlotte being a copy of Dolores, I understand, especially given how parenthood is a recurring theme. But to put herself in each and every other pearl felt like a wasted opportunity narrative-wise. And it doesn't much make sense when you consider in this very episode, she criticizes Maeve for leaving the hosts behind when she did the exact same thing. So why would Dolores make such a decision? According to her, it's because if you want something done right, you do it yourself. Apparently, she didn't trust the other hosts at all, which makes me wonder whether she really does have the intent to bring them all into this world once she conquers it. But then I'm also left with a couple of other questions. When did Dolores learn hand-to-hand combat? I mean, she fights and defeats Stubbs, who as a soldier robot would be specifically trained to fight in order to do his job. It's literally his purpose. The reason for his existence is to be able to fight to protect the host, and specifically Bernard, but he can't do that. He gets beaten up by her and tossed over a balcony. Then she fights Maeve and easily incapacitates her. This is a character who upgraded herself and was, at least at one point, able to control the hosts with her mind. This is the character propped up as Dolores' worthy opponent. So what happened here? In a related question, she was just about to cut Maeve open and remove her pearl before Serac's people arrived. So why did she stop? She had plenty of time. And last but not least, what happened to Bernard's little gadget thing? In this episode, we learned that Bernard has created this little button gadget, similar to the one that he used on himself, and similar to the one that Serac used on Maeve, that can disable hosts by freezing their motor functions. Will we get a chance to see him try to use it on the Scotsman? Will it work, since we now know it's Dolores and whatever superpowers she's given herself? I don't know. This episode just seemed like they bit off more than they could chew. They tried to achieve too much too fast. And it was really disappointing to learn that they just summed it all up as Dolores making more of herself. I felt that it would have been far more interesting if each of those pearls represented their own people. I mean, I guess we can explore how they change over time, how they may start out as her, but they're influenced by their circumstances, their experiences, and they could all turn on her. Who knows? But I did feel that was a little bit lazy storytelling. I am going to continue to watch it. This wasn't my favorite episode. I much preferred episodes 2 and 3, but I'm hoping that it makes a turnaround. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week.